had a frozen one, so I have something. Would you like some? You can share.
Welcome, Mr. Omara. It's amazing to have you here today. My name is Camille, and I'm one of the California Regional Directors, along with Karina. It's so amazing to have you here today. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we don't have pizza, but we wanted to start off and ask you, how do you feel about pineapple pizza?
It's an interesting question. Pineapple pizza. Honestly, I don't mind it. I'm not one of the people who have really strong feelings on it one way or the other, and I've met a lot of people who really do have strong feelings. I don't. It's fine. It's not something I've generally ordered, but I don't mind it when people have it.
So, our first question is, why did you choose to run for a seat in the House of Representatives, and what inspired you to do so?
Okay, let's see. Two very different questions. The first about why I decided to run, what got me into politics at all, is a combination of long-term frustration at the direction the country's going and just how badly we often do in terms of messaging on the issues. It constantly blows me away that so many politicians just dance right around them and never actually talk about what's going on, because no one wants to talk about bad news or this or that. It just frustrates me because we used to be able to do it. We used to be able to talk about what needed to be done. So I felt I needed to get involved more and talk about those things, but I never really expected to be in politics directly, as like being a candidate wasn't really my first choice. But I have to look my students in the eyes and explain to them why and how they're pretty much screwed because of the direction we've been taking the last 40 years economically in this country. The US is actually in sharp decline economically and has been for some time. We're out of the top 20 in almost every single measure of socioeconomic health. And I think we can do a lot better than that. And it frustrates me to tell people like, sorry, we've screwed up, and not actually get involved and try and do something about it. Why the House? That has a lot more to do with um, what I think I could contribute, because it isn't as much politics that interests me. I think it's being able to talk about the important issues facing the country. And I have a lot to contribute on economic issues, on geopolitics, on things of national concern, much more so than I'd be able to contribute to, say, in statewide office or local office.
That's great. So, a follow up question to that was, how has running for office impacted you and changed your view of the community?
No, that is interesting. I guess it's gotten me to interact with a lot more people in groups than I had done, which is interesting. I quite enjoyed getting out in the community pre-pandemic, of course, and meeting tons of people, getting involved in different events, as as an opportunity really to deepen my own connection to it. And a lot of people do that sort of thing in politics anyway, and there's a certain like pandery quality that comes across from a lot of that, but I actually really did enjoy a lot of the places that I got to go, like being able to um, uh, speak to high school clubs, or to college students, or to environmental action groups in the area. Uh, Really was interesting to me, and a lot of times it was a matter of seeing the energy and enthusiasm that people did have for improving things in their community, because nationally we do suffer from a lot of apathy. A lot of people are really kind of disconnected from the political process overall, but it doesn't mean that people aren't political. They're just political in different ways, right? They might not give a damn about this or that politician, but they're going to show up and help out at their local homeless shelter or soup kitchen or something. And seeing that gave me a lot of hope. And
What have you found is the biggest misconception about people who are running for office?
you know i I have to say, I'm often tempted to be a little cynical about politicians. A lot of them do kind of seem like they're in it for the money because of taking tons of those corporate bucks and whatever, and voting against our interests over and over again. But I think that the bigger problem is that the system itself corrupts good people who do get in. And this is something that I've seen in engaging with just tons and tons of like grassroots candidates and people running all over the place, is just people do get into politics for the right reasons. They want to do better. But the ones who end up being most successful, usually, most of the time, in order to run credibly, you need a lot of money. And because of the way our system is built, that ends up inevitably corrupting people. So I think one of the things that was nice to me, that was cheering to me, was just seeing how many good people really do want to get involved in the process and really do want to make things better.
So what, in your opinion, are the two biggest issues facing the people of the 42nd District, and what would you do to address these issues?
I think a lot of it has to do with the lack of opportunity in the area. We have in Southwest Riverside County often been kind of a virtual dumping ground for LA Orange County. We're just over the mountains from a heavily urbanized metropolitan area. And because housing prices keep going up in LA and Orange, people keep pushing farther and farther out to get a place to live that they can afford, right? What that does, if you don't develop the local economy, is it creates massive traffic and pollution. We have among the worst air quality in the entire country. The Inland Empire has the worst air quality in California, and among the worst in the entire country. I mean, our air quality is literally worse than LA's, because what we have is 1/3 of the population having to commute out of the county for work. And because the land was cheaper, it ended up with tons of logistics jobs, warehousing, that kind of stuff. So there's tons of trucks on the road moving stuff around. And we don't actually benefit from that in any way, shape, or form. So sustainable jobs in the area is important. I mean, the 42nd is quite a sprawling district. It's physically quite large, and there is not a single university in the district, like not one, which means that people are leaving. Younger people end up moving back out of it to go to college. Oftentimes they're not going to come back because we don't have good jobs in the area, because you have a hard time attracting the good jobs until you have a well-educated local workforce. So we're basically like a series of bedroom communities paired with a lot of low-income communities based on the people that were already out here. And it's just a really bad combination. We really do deserve better.
So over this year, we've seen that there's a big partisan divide in the country. What would you do to connect with people of all political ideologies?
Connecting with the people is different from connecting with the ideologies. One of the things that is usually kind of obvious to people if they get talking to me, and that I'm definitely keen to maintain, is that I'm kind of an anti-politician in some ways. I'm not really interested in partisan BS. I'm not in this to advantage the parties as much as I am the people. And I'm in the Democratic Party because it is by far the closest to my own views. But it's not one of these like my team right or wrong. It's more like the people of my country, right or wrong. I want to help people overall, which means I want to try and engage more and more with people on the actual issues themselves and on how what I'm talking about can improve their lives and their quality of life. And before we actually did have to shut down so much of the in-person stuff because of the pandemic, we were having really good success in engaging with people who are self-identified conservatives, who know that I'm a progressive and that we are coming from a very different place to start with, but respect the fact that I'm willing to talk to them, that I want to hear their concerns, and that I'm willing to discuss my issues in relation to those concerns instead of just talking down to people or preaching only to the converted. I want to talk to the people who did hear something in Trump's message that they liked and try to find a way to steer them to policies that are actually better for them, by talking about their concerns.
We really appreciate you being here and taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us. Why do you think that students should take time out of their busy schedules to learn about the government?
Well, because honestly, it makes a difference in your life. I mean, we're tempted to think that it doesn't because it seems so far away. And we can also be tempted too to think that it doesn't matter as much because, all these politicians all seem the same and they're just, molded by focus groups or whatever, and they're just not really talking to you. They're not really authentic. And that's simply not the case. Pardon me. Oftentimes, if we want better candidates who are actually willing to speak for us and help us out, we have to get involved earlier on and participate in things like the primaries. That's the opportunity to choose the actually good candidates and not the one who just, I don't know, came into it with a lot more money. We allow too many people to buy elections. Honestly, even if you leave out Gen Z and look only at the millennials by themselves would be the single largest voting bloc in the country if they voted. But they vote at far lower rates, than the generations above them. So if you add in the millennials and Gen Z, you can dominate politics in this country. And heck, just thinking in terms of the two political parties, not only would you be able to fundamentally transform large parts of the Democratic Party, but all but 2 states in the union would be Democratic. And it's not just about the partisan advantage. It's not thinking, oh, we'll turn the country blue. What's the point of that? Well, the point is it'll lower your cost of living and it will increase your opportunity. So I would say that the best reason for young people to get involved in politics is self-interest. Think about what you want in life and realize that there are intentionally built political obstacles that we have the opportunity to wipe away.